So welcome everyone to the Global Women's Assembly for Climate Justice, Path to COP30 and Beyond. My name is Osprey Oriole Lake, and I'm the Executive Director of the Women's Earth and Climate Action Network, or WECAN, and I'm living on Coast Miwok lands in the San Francisco Bay Area in California. As we open this gathering, many of you have already been introducing yourselves in the chat. Please be welcome to do so. We love hearing where you're from and who you are. So be in community with us here in the chat. For those of you participating through various live streams, we welcome you from far and wide. And if you would like to hear all the sessions in your preferred language and also participate in the live chat, please be welcome to join us on Zoom. The registration link is on our website and across our social media channels. And we're very excited to learn that there have been well over 100,000 people tuning in and viewing the assembly across the live streams and Zoom. And with that, I also, as we have been doing every day, taking a moment to acknowledge this very challenging time and to let you all know that we're welcoming you to a space for us to be together from all over the world, and to know that WECAN is really here for you and that you're not alone. It's a time when we really need to be in community together, and we send you our love and well-being. So this global assembly has primarily taken place during the second week of the climate talks in Bonn, Germany, which have now concluded, and where the continued struggle by our movements has been underway, challenging governments to fight for climate justice, the 1.5-degree guardrail, keeping fossil fuels in the ground, centering gender in the UNFCCC negotiations, climate finance, the just transition, and so much more. Our assembly has been timed to create a bridge with the vital advocacy work at the UNFCCC, and we have been very fortunate to have colleagues on the ground in Bonn who've been presenting on our panels and sharing their powerful insights and analysis. So we're really glad how we were able to bring these two worlds together, and also colleagues who were at London Climate Week. Since there have been 5 prior days of the assembly, I would really encourage those of you perhaps joining us for the first time today to take the opportunity to watch some of the earlier sessions, which are now on our YouTube channel, because each day is really building upon the next, and especially for people who want to learn why we are focusing on the leadership of women in all of their diversity and a feminist and climate justice analysis. Much of the framing for the assembly was discussed on those earlier panels. And before our first panel of the day, which I'm very excited about, I want to remind everyone that as part of the assembly, we are releasing a powerful call to action to governments and financial institutions globally, and we want them to hear from us. This collectively written call to action will be delivered at the UN General Assembly in September and at COP30 in November. So you can see the call to action with our demands in the chat, and there's still time to sign the document and take action with us. So we welcome organizational sign-ons, and thank you for all who have already done so. And our last announcement for today, for the morning, is WECAN is also soft launching a WhatsApp network platform so that conversations generated at this assembly can carry on into action going forward. The WhatsApp group is a place where you can connect with each other and share your climate justice related work, your research, projects, campaigns, and also find collaboration partners. And there's already some good discussions going on there, and we can put the link into the chat. So with that, I would really love to start our first panel of the day. I want to welcome the outstanding leaders who are joining us for this first session, Indigenous Women from Brazil on the Path to COP30. I want to thank all of these leaders for your important work and your dedication and courage. It's an honor to welcome the extraordinary Indigenous leaders because they are truly visionary protectors of land, life, and culture. They are guiding us with their courage and clarity as we look ahead to COP30 in Belém, in the heart of the Amazon. As we prepare to gather in Brazil in November, we are recognizing the urgency of this moment. The Amazon rainforest and the interconnected biomes that sustain regional and global climate stability are in crisis. And at the forefront of this crisis are Indigenous communities, and especially Indigenous women who face intensifying threats from land grabbing, deforestation, extractive industries, and violence. This is a critical time to stand in solidarity with the women who are not only defending their territories and communities, but also leading efforts to protect our planet's future. These leaders are resisting centuries of colonization and confronting a present shaped by neoliberal policies, fossil fuel expansion, illegal mining, and industrial agricultural business, forces that continue to drive environmental destruction and social injustice. And we really need to name what is often left unsaid. Women land defenders are disproportionately impacted by these threats due to deeply entrenched patriarchal systems. Yet in the face of these challenges, they rise as guardians of the forest, as defenders of rights, and as powerful agents of change. We are here today to listen, to learn, and most importantly, to act. As the international community turns its eyes towards COP30, we need to amplify the demands of Indigenous women and ensure their leadership is not only recognized, but centered in the decisions that shape our collective future. We stand with them to reject the commodification of nature through false solutions like carbon offsets and biodiversity credits. The Amazon is not a marketplace. It's a living, sacred system, the ancestral home of countless Indigenous nations whose rights must be upheld. The women on this panel are leading vital efforts for climate justice, Indigenous sovereignty, gender equity, and the rights of nature. Their wisdom, strength, and vision are essential as we move towards COP30 and toward a more just and healthy world. So with deep respect and solidarity, I'm very honored to introduce our panelists. Let's listen to their calls to action and follow their leadership as we prepare to meet on their homelands in Brazil. First, we're going to be hearing from Secretary Porea Tembe of the Tembe people. She is the first Secretary of State for Indigenous Peoples of Pará in the Brazilian Amazon in Brazil. And I have also been very honored to be able to meet with Porea over the last few years, and we are currently engaged in a reforestation and forest project in her territory. And also to mention, Pará is where the COP is taking place. So we're really honored to have her leadership with us today. We will then be hearing from Federal Deputy Célia Xakriabá of the Xakriabá people, who is the federal deputy in the Brazilian Congress in the state of Minas Gerais in Brazil. And I really want to also highlight that these women, these Indigenous women, along with their colleagues from ANMIGA, have worked for years to now have Indigenous women in government. And I think it's an incredible example for the world. So we're really honored to have them here with us to speak with us today. Then we'll be hearing from Jozileia Kaingang from the Kaingang people. She is the executive director of the National Association of Indigenous Women's Warriors of Ancestry, or ANMIGA, from Brazil. And we are very honored to be having a formal partnership at WECAN with ANMIGA. And it is through ANMIGA that this incredible leadership has been born in Brazil. Then we'll be hearing from Watatakalu, who is, Watatakalu Yawalapiti, who is Xingu and leader of the Yawalapiti, member of the Women's Movement of the Xingu Indigenous Territory, and coordinator of political articulation of the National Articulation of Indigenous Women Warriors of Ancestry. Again, that is ANMIGA, also from Brazil. So it's just an extraordinary group of leaders that we're going to be hearing from. And with that, I'm very, very thankful to have Porea here with us today, and I hand the floor to you, Secretary Porea. And I just want to remind people to also use your interpretation button. Thank you so much. You have the floor. Welcome.
Boa tarde a todas.
Good afternoon to everyone, to all women from the different territories, from different peoples. Thank you, Osprey, for your introduction of us, Brazilian women. In my country now, it's 2:25 p.m. and to join this network of women from different contexts, for us, it is always a pleasure. It is a great pleasure to be here sharing what we ask as Brazilian women. What do we think and what are we preparing for this challenging moment? Everyone is quite concerned about the COP at the Amazon, and I used to say that COP used to be at the Amazon like a long time ago. But I think that it is the time of the Amazon, it is the time of Brazil, of the indigenous peoples, and we are here to build this pathway. I think now we have about 130 days to the copy, and from now I want to welcome everyone here in Pará, even that virtually now, but we hope to have you here in the next month. I would like to try to speak about how we are organizing here in Pará. We have an initiative, the Caravan. I don't know if you can show my slides. Let me see, Sophia.
The slide is showing.
So this is the Caravan of Indigenous Peoples, pathway to COP30, and it is to prepare the indigenous peoples, especially the women, for then to have the possibility of participating in this so discussed event. And the indigenous people were always very far away from this debate, and we want to protagonize it in the better possible way. So we are preparing indigenous people to bring their participation, active participation, mobilization, articulation, and informed participation. This caravan is to take awareness to the territories, bringing information about the issue, about what the climate conference is, because many of us, we don't know. We know about climate. Historically, we know how to speak about climate, but what we don't know is this configuration around the UN. So the objective of this caravan is to sensibilize, inform, qualify the indigenous people so they can have their participation assured in this event. Next slide. We have here, please pass the slides. Here is what is the project is. The provision and sensibilization of the leaders, of the youth, with the objective of preparing and qualifying the participation of the peoples as that will happen in November 2025. Next slide, please. And this project, it is developed in the 8 ethno-regions of the state of Pará with the objective of mobilization of the territories and taking how we want to reach the COP. Next slide. How this project is carried out. We have seminars in the 8 ethno-regions of information on training of the youth that will be qualified for covering the participation of delegates in the blue and green zones. Next slide. What do we want from the COP? We want to ensure the participation of 16 delegates, 2 from each ethno-region, to act in decision-making spaces within the COP30 blue zone and 38 delegates in the green zone of COP30. To ensure the training and participation of 16 young indigenous communicators, 2 from each ethno-region, to join the delegates and create content from the perspective and peculiarity of each region. So when we talk about these young communicators in the 8 ethno regions, here in Pará we are located in Pará we have 8 different regions, and each ethno region have different indigenous peoples. Next slide. Here there is a village where we work this caravan. Next slide. Here we have the women, indigenous women, Kayapo. These are men. Leaders, chiefs. You can pass the slide.
This project was an initiative of the state government and the state government with indigenous people, together with Célia Xakriabá, and it was with an parliamentary amendment to sensibilize this mobilization of the way that we can prepare our peoples, the women, young youth, leaders, so we can bring the voice of the territories, the voice of the indigenous people, our struggles, our problems, but to also show that we understand the solution. We know the solution, be it COP30 or all the future COPs. It's not enough to do the COPs if you don't ensure the participation of the people who are in fact defending and guaranteeing the environmental issues in the planet. So it's important for us to see this and start to do so that the entities, be it government or the public organizations or private organizations, that they understand the participation of the indigenous peoples. We don't want to just to be next to it. We want to be part of the building process. We want to show the solution that we know and we have known for millions of years. And we are here to be able to build this way, not only towards COP, because we're talking a lot about COP30, but there's a lot more than COP30. This needs to become routine to talk about environmental issues, talk about education, health, territorial rights, because one thing is connected to the other. It's not enough to bring the responsibility just to the government, where the environmental responsibility is actually for all of us in the world. So it's enough that only us are responsible to take care of this environmental responsibility. It's now the time that it's shared by everyone. So we want to show and say at this COP that financial climate financing goes directly to the indigenous peoples, to the organizations, but it also can be a work that is collective, where government, private institutions, supporters, and society in general can more and more reforest the mines so we can guarantee life. And when we say guarantee of life, we are talking about guaranteeing life in the planet. I don't know if my time's already up. Thank you very much for the space, and we will continue here listening to the other colleagues. I would love to speak more, but I want to thank to all of my colleagues, Watatakalu, that I see here on screen, Josie, and let me see who else is here. Anyways, our colleagues from ANMIGA that are here today and have been walking during this path, and I'm really, really thankful.
Thank you so much, Secretary Puer, and we really are grateful for your leadership and excited to support all your efforts for COP30 and beyond. As you said, one of the reasons we titled this assembly COP30 and Beyond is because COP30 is a moment and it's a critical moment, but we of course need to think much broader than that. And hopefully we'll see how the timing goes. We can come back and get some more comments from you after everyone else has a chance to speak. And now we're going to be hearing from Federal Deputy Célia Xakriabá. She was not able to join us physically today. She got called into meetings. So we have a recording of her and we're going to show that now, and then we'll go to the other speakers. Thank you.
Estar aqui nessa ação global, junto com mulheres do mundo inteiro.
So to be in this global action together with women from all over the world is to be connected to the earth, because the planet Earth is also a feminine planet. It's the planet Earth, but as women, healing is also feminine. Talking to Indigenous women is to talk about a profound humanity. Talking about Indigenous women is to talk about the ones that came before, and even with all the violence of all our rights and the rape of the earth, Indigenous women are still here. Indigenous women have always been the last to be in the institutional spaces, but it's important that humanity can understand that Indigenous women, as in Brazil, we have been the first Brazilians. The mother of Brazil is Indigenous, even though many parents feel more pride of the father of the European colonization. It's important to recognize that at this moment, on the way to COP30, as well as in the Brazilian parliament, when Indigenous women stand up and speak, the land speaks with them. When Indigenous women stand up and speak, the waters, the woods, the forests, the savannas, the Amazon, the Atlantic forest, the Caatinga, and the Pantanal, they speak with them. We have been organizing around Brazilian Parliament, and together with the National Articulation of Indigenous Women Warriors of Ancestry, because we know that this is a very important moment to think about the whole process of action. This is an important year of action. We don't have much time left, and that's why we have an important project that is the Paki of the nature as a subject inspired by the federal constitutions of Ecuador and Bolivia. But we bring something new in Article 16, which is to recognize the Amazon, the Cerrado, the Caatinga, the Pampa, and the Pantanal as subjects of law. Brazil is the only country that has the name, that its name comes after its tree. The Caatinga is a biome that only exists in Brazil, and there are 6 biomes in Brazil. And we Indigenous women like these deep roots, the branches, and every time they try to deforest our forest, we are also affected. Together, we held a hearing on those displaced by pesticides, and Indigenous women are the most affected because they give birth to children with malformations or suffer miscarriages that are not spontaneous due to the crimes of pesticides. We are also following the first case tried as an ethnofeminicide in Brazil, which happened in the southern region of Brazil. We don't want there to have to be a law, but it's very important to say that this is a very positive result, that our Indigenous caucus managed to pass a law to combat violence against Indigenous women, a law that was filled in an Indigenous language, because when they violate an Indigenous woman, they violate land, planet, and also humanity. We will also hold the first conference of Indigenous women. This is historic for a country like Brazil that has 525 years. We believe that in this moment, towards COP, people are asking themselves, what is the alternative to stop climate change? And there is no need to ask this question anymore. Financiers do not to sit down and spend money to recognize the importance of direct financing towards Indigenous people. The UN already recognizes that, and the demarcation of Indigenous territories is one of the last solutions to stop climate crisis. Indigenous peoples, they make up 5% of humanity, but they protect more than 80%. Indigenous women make up a little more than half of the Brazilian population. If we're good at taking care of the territories, if we're good at being on the front lines of territory defense, we are more than prepared to be recognized as a planetary solution. And for this reason, we sent an important recommendation that at COP, there should, above all, be a proposal that considers the demarcation of indigenous territories, indigenous agroecology, the economy and bioeconomy, which goes through the hands of women as one of the urgent and emergent alternatives to stop the climate crisis. It is important to recognize that we will be at COP30 in Brazil, but we indigenous people, we are every day at COPs because it is our way of life. With our defense, our bodies on the front lines, we make real change happen every day. But this has been a very dangerous fight. Humanity's most dangerous fight is the territorial fight, and we will not walk away from this fight. Walking away from this fight would be walking away from ourselves, and we will not walk away, because as long as the earth is being violated, we indigenous women stand up, because we know that killing a river is killing not only this generation. Killing a region is also killing a woman's uterus, is killing the future. This is future size. Those who kill women through feminicide, I think this is lack of love, because women are losing their lives and humanity is losing its capacity of love. There's also women, and I have a really good news to say, as I have been the first indigenous woman to be present of the Amazon condition. 525 years later, I am the first indigenous woman to preside over the Women's Commission in the National Congress, one of the crucial issues that were launched in this campaign. Without women, there's no climate, because there already research that says that women are already rethinking whether to have children, whether they want to plan their families, because they're afraid of their children will suffer in the future due to respiratory disease or malformation. Therefore, we want to discuss how the climate crisis deepens inequality, increases food insecurity, and above all, affects directly women's lives, because there is environmental racism and gender racism. Politics has been one of the most aggressive places, but when people ask if we are afraid, fear is also a decision. And between fear and courage, we stand up every day and decide to have courage, because those who fight for the territories also fight for science. Those who fight for territories, fight for the standing forests, also fight for climate. And we have no time to be afraid, because we recognize that this is humanity's most important fight. We want to talk about economy, but we want to talk about a smart economy, an economy that does no longer affect us. It's an urgent way to think about energy transition, human transition, political transition, and a space to transition and improve climate solutions and democracy. There will be no effective solutions if we do not recognize the role of women around the world. The planet is crying for help, and we continue to fight for the territories, because those who have a territory have a place to return to. And those who have a place to return to, they have a mother, a lab, and cure. Without demarcation, there's no climate. And without women, there is no climate. Without forests, there's no climate. And the healing of Earth depends on Earth to face this destruction. Only the actions of many women. We are women who resist with the strength of the shaman, because we know that the forest will only be strong if women are still standing strong and thriving. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Congresswoman Xakriabá. Amazing words and messages for all of us. I did speak with Congresswoman Xakriabá just about a week or so ago, and we're very honored to be supporting her efforts heading into the COP and beyond around, the fight for land demarcation, and also she had mentioned the rights of nature work. Some of you who were with us yesterday know that we had a whole session on rights of nature, and we will also be holding a session about rights of nature with the Congresswoman at COP30 to continue that agenda. So very powerful words of women leadership, and we were so honored to hear from her. And I would now like to hand the floor to Jozileia. You have the floor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bem, boa tarde a todas as mulheres.
Good afternoon to all the women that have been here today on Zoom and on the live transition. Thank you, Osprey, for the invitation, and thank you to WECAN. We're thankful for this partnership that we have been building in the last years. And this partnership is something for us to think beyond COP30, because as Indigenous women, we have been organizing so we can have a possible future, talking about Célia and Xakriabá. They reflect a lot of what us Indigenous women in ANMIGA have been doing here in our country. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we Indigenous women have been thinking in this moment, and what Célia brought really well. We are in the days before our 4th March for Indigenous women in Brazil. Our march is biannually, so every 2 years, us Indigenous women, we get together in Brasília, which is the capital of our country here in Brazil, and we paint this country, our country in Genipapo and Uruguay.
We bring our bodies, our territories, reflected in our bodies, in our territories, the struggles against the capital, our struggle for the Amazon, for the standing forest, our struggle for the Amazon biomes. We know that in the Amazon we have several biomes. We have the Caatinga, the Atlantic forest, the Cerrado, the Pampas, the Pantanal, the Amazon forest, and now we have a 7th biome that is the result of we standing the voices, which is the mud, the sea, the coastal biome, and we have heard the social biodiversity and the voices of the women, Indigenous women that are from this biome of the Brazilian coastland. So bringing to this pathway, to this live, our debate of the Indigenous women during the march that will bring the first Indigenous Women Conference at the national level, which is a partnership with the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples and with the Articulation of Indigenous Women. We will have in these spaces, in our 4th March, we will have a space, a place that will receive internationally the Indigenous women that will come from other regions of our planet. The 5 regions will be in Brazil represented, so to participate in this space, ancestral space of global resistance. We choose this name for our international space because we women, Indigenous women, we are the reflect of our ancestrality, of the protection of our biomes, and we are global voices, voices for nature, voices for the heal of the earth, voices that reflect the well-living, the baby bear. And the following of life, we received a clock of time that counts the hours, the days that we still have if we don't stop the overconsumption, the global warming that we are doing to our planet because of this overconsumption. So we, Indigenous women, we want that this space of our 4th March to be the space of the voices of the women from the world, for us to produce jointly a letter of Indigenous women from all over the world, and also to give this letter to the COP presidency, to the countries that are part of the climate conference. It is important to have our voices of Indigenous women because we reflect not only about our peoples, we reflect on those who protect the environment. Our Secretary Puritembe, she said very well that it is very difficult to be an environmental protector in our country. Our country is the one that most killed in the environmental defenders. So we Indigenous women that are in the front line in the protection of our territories, the territories where you can still find standing forests, clean water, clean air, and a perspective of future life, we are the most endangered. We Indigenous women, we are disproportionately threatened, and we are in a huge inequality regarding emergencies and climate urgencies, because they affect directly our way of life and our ancestral knowledge that we carry as science that gives a possibility of a possible future. Climate crisis all over the world, but especially in Brazil, it impacted Indigenous women very severely. We have a huge problem with food insecurity by the result of climate crisis. For example, last year in May 2024, there were huge floodings in the Pampa biome. It is a biome with several indigenous peoples, Kaingang, Guarani, Laclanoxoclén, that was hardly impacted, as well as in 2023, in 2022, the 2024, the Brazilian Cerrado was on fire, a lot of forest fires, and this impacted a lot of indigenous communities, our territories, and very hardly to our life. And the result was a forced dislocation of indigenous women, of indigenous children, because most of our territory is impacted, forced displacement. We have a crucial role in the resistance and also in looking for solutions from our traditional knowledge, from our way of territorial management, building alternatives that are sustainable for the climate crisis. So during this moment in our international tent or place, during our 4th Indigenous Women March, we will build this debate. And Osprey and everyone that are here, we want to think collectively as our body territory of Indigenous women will participate in the COP30, making advocacy with the Brazilian government and other governments, and again, with the strength of our voices, saying again that we need direct financing for the projects led by Indigenous women and Indigenous organizations in the territories. Direct financing for populations that protect the climate, protect the planet, they need to happen. We cannot have more only a speech and a commitment. We really need that Indigenous women are benefited and can assure that the work that we do in our territories, in our biomes, it is a work that have a value and that work to be assured by the direct financing to our communities. I thank you very much for this moment here. I thank you very much for those who came before me, to Secretary Puritembe, to Deputy Célia Xakriabá, and to the Coordinator of Policies, Watatakalu. Thank you very much, Osprey.
Thank you so much, Josie, for your incredibly important remarks, and also just emphasizing again this call from the Indigenous women for direct financing of their work and communities. I think that's so important. And to be sure, we will be standing with you as we head into COP30 with our calls to action from governments. And I'm just reminding people that we also had a session yesterday on the Escazú Agreement about protecting women land defenders, and we will also bring that agenda to COP30 as well. and really hear you and understand the incredible courage it has taken for all of you to fight for your territories with so many threats of violence and harms to particularly women. So thank you for bringing that up as well, and so many other important topics. With that, I am very excited to bring Watatakalu into the conversation. It's good to see you again. We saw you recently. Please, you have the floor.
Vocês me ouvem?
Yes, we hear you. Yes, go ahead. You're good. Thank you.
Boa tarde a todas, a todos.
Good afternoon to everyone. It's an honor to be here together with my partners in struggle. And thank you for this invite. And since we are speaking about spaces, we here at ANMIGA, together with the Indigenous women from all over Brazil, and also in articulation with Indigenous women from other countries, how can we get to the spaces of the COP? This is the discussion that we are already having. We are not waiting for the month before the COP to have this discussion. We are already doing it. What do we want to take there, to the blue zone, to the green zone, and also to other parallel spaces or side spaces that will happen during the COP in Belém? We will take experience from Indigenous women. We need to be there in those spaces, not only as listeners. So we are working for us women, Indigenous women that work in the environmental area, in conservation area. How are we doing this? It is choosing, preparing, and making the Indigenous women to understand what the COP is. We know that there is an event created by non-Indigenous, but there are a lot of our relatives that doesn't know that the COP exists. But we are doing this work of preparing them for us to take the message of Indigenous women from the Indigenous territories. But we don't want to take only the Brazilian message. We are aligning with other women from other countries because yes, we have examples to show in these spaces to other countries, to the government, and to those who destroy the territories. We need to take a message to them, a message from the indigenous peoples from the planet, a message from the indigenous women from the planet. And how is this constituted? By expositions, by deployments, by experiences, the governances from the territories that never participated in those spaces. It is very important. So in the blue zone, in the green zone, and in the side events that we are creating, some of them, since we cannot take all our experiences to the blue zone and to the green zone, we are bringing our guests, our partners, our partner governments, for listening and to knowing the experiences that are going on in Brazil. Another thing that we were discussing is about global meetings. How important it is, this kind of events, the events that we have with you and with other partners. It is so great because it makes possible for us to dialogue with other indigenous women from other places. Because the experience from other territory together with ours, this creates a huge richness for us to be able to take our collective struggle, because the struggle of indigenous peoples, of indigenous women, will always be collective. So this space is so great. Last week we were at Peru for the anniversary of our movie, and today we are having this event here that is very important for doing this alignment, are also to invite our partners, organizations, at the international level, and other preparation that we are carrying on how we will be in those spaces. We will have the march, as Josie mentioned. We will have our march, and we will have our tent, our space, and in those spaces we will build collectively what we will take there and how we will arrive to those spaces. And the social movement, right? How do we work it too? Because there is indigenous movement, there are Quilombola movements, there are movements from other segments that we are also talking to those movements and dialoguing with those movements. And we need this because if we are struggling, we need to share this struggle. And because of this, we as Indigenous women, as Indigenous leaders, we are in these spaces to add to our strengthening, to add to our struggle, for us, for this struggle for our only thing, which is our planet. Our planet is dying and we need to act. So the transition, the direct financing, it already needs to be happening long time ago, but they speak, and this needs to get into practice. Indigenous peoples need to be heard, that we exist, that we learn the tools that the non-Indigenous created for us to receive the tool.
So my time is now up. So thank you very much. And thank you to all the women who spoke before me. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your important comments. Really wonderful to hear from you and all the work that you're doing. We so respect all of the leadership at ANMIGA, just such an incredible powerhouse of Indigenous women across Brazil, and this important conversation and how you are helping us all prepare for COP30 and beyond. We only have a few minutes left, like 2 or 3 minutes. And I would like to hand the floor actually back to Secretary Poer to have the final word of anything that you want to share with us that are calls to action or anything else you wanted to share with us as we get ready to come to COP30 in your territory. And we hope things are going well for you there. So let's give you the final word and then we'll close the session. We have about 2 or 3 minutes. Please, Secretary Poer, you have the floor. Thank you.
Obrigada mais uma.
Thank you once again for the space. Thank you to WECAN to bring ANMIGA to this place that is so important, this global assembly, and for us to have the opportunity to be seen. But today it's not enough just for them to see us. It's also important that more allies, more than WECAN and many others, can understand the work that we as women at ANMIGA do. We're not just doing for the women in Brazil. We have been starting to do a work, and we're talking for a global work for women around the world, be they Indigenous or not. So this assembly that we are here today, this global assembly, it's important for us to start to think about a global reforestation. So I'm calling you all that have been following, that are going to see, so you can add to the fight of the Indigenous women. Come help us, come be multiplicators of this process. This worry is a worry about the future of our peoples, the future of humanity. So I wanted to bring this and tell everyone that's here today, you are welcome to the state of Pará. Pará nowadays has been talked a lot about, good things, bad things, because it's the Amazon, it's in Brazil. But because it's here, I would say, come. Pará, there's people here, there's real people, people who build, people who make the development in a sustainable way for the world. So I believe that the Amazon has its biggest power as the other biomes. It's important to look at COP thinking about the Amazon, but the Amazon by itself, it doesn't sustain itself if it's not a collective effort to continue to strengthen the other biomes. The Amazon by itself is not going to strengthen itself if we don't strengthen the Pampas, the Pantanal, the Caatinga, and the other biomes. So now it's the time for this global action to become, in fact, a global and humanitarian action. So you will all be welcome in the state of Pará and to COP. But don't forget, this is not just about COP. COP will go away and it will go to another country, and we will continue here, and we will be here, and we will be multiplicators of new generations that will continue here. So it's important to think beyond COP, to think about something that will come and it will stay. And when it stays, there will have problems like we have been developing in my territory. Thank God that it's a reforestation and with the support of my team, and this is very important. So every seed that we plant collectively, be it within a territory or foresting the mines, it is a collective result for everyone. So it's now the moment that everybody can get together with this cause and reforest the mines and be multiplicators and defenders of our planets. Thank you very much once again, and thank you to my colleagues Watatakalu and Josie, Osprey and Célia, and all the women's and the interpreters who have been happening in this moment so we could be here and share our voice and our image to the world. And once again, we are available. And as secretary, I will one day, this position will go, but as ANMIGA, our strength and our struggles will continue. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Feels like we all need to be applauding. Great closing comment, Secretary Puer. We really honor your leadership, and yes, we want your voices heard. And I just want you to know, I don't think you were on earlier, that in addition to all the amazing people who are joining us in the Zoom space, this session is being live streamed to well over 100,000 people. And we've been having all kinds of views with our live stream partners. So I want you to know that that multiplication is happening in this moment. So thank you all so very much for your time, your leadership, and we are looking forward to standing with you in Brazil. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate your work and partnership.